Welcome back to Undefendable. We're going to be doing a quick guide on Play Like a Pro for Seraph. Quick intro. Seraph is a methodical, grind you down hero. Decent defense, lots of status effects in play, and a minor in undefendable damage. Undefendable. She doesn't win by racing, she wins by stretching the game, shaving off your tempo, and making your best tools feel bad. Let's go over some of those tokens. First one, we got Flight. You roll 2 dice to dodge or make undefendable. A player with this token may spend it at any time during the roll phase. Once spent, roll 2 dice. If a 6 was rolled, activate this token. If activated during your offensive roll phase, this player's attack becomes undefendable. If activated during your defensive roll phase, ignore all incoming damage. Lots of utility there. Pretty cool. Blinding Light. Roll 1 to fail or reduce attack damage. The next time a player afflicted with this token concludes their offensive roll phase, they must remove this token and roll 1. On a 1, their offensive roll phase has no effect of any kind. On a 2 or 3, any damage that they deal for the remainder of the roll phase is reduced by half. Pretty cool. So it's like you're blind or the sun's in your eyes, and then a 4, 5, and 6, nothing happens. Cleanse. This just removes a status effect, so you would put it on yourself, and then if they inflict you with the burn, you could just use the cleanse to get rid of the burn. Holy Presence. Deal 1 damage to all opponents. During their upkeep phase, a player with this token deals 1 damage to all opponents. This token may not be transferred by any means. So if you can get 2 of these on you, you're hitting your opponent for 2 damage during your upkeep every turn. Kind of like Captain Marvel's Cosmic Flares. And then Blessing of Divinity. Prevent being defeated. When you die, instead of dying, you would crack this Blessing of Divinity, and then you would come back with 1 health. Her dice are going to be 3 blades, 1 wing, 1 cross, 1 angelic pendant, making it a little spicy when it comes to some of her abilities. Let's go over her abilities really quickly. Holy Blade's going to be your basic. Purify. Choose a player. Deal 5 undefendable damage. Otherwise, that player heals 4. Oh, if it's an opponent, 5 damage. Otherwise, it's heal 4. Additionally, you may remove a status effect from that player. Glorious, gain flight, then deal 6. Holy Smite, roll 4, do whatever it says. Triumphant is the small straight. Large straight. Mini ult for highest power. Really fun stuff. Lots of status tokens here. And then Angelic Mantle. You're going to do something. You cannot whiff, which is kind of nice. And then Split the Heavens for the ultimate for Seraph. Let's go over her cards. One thing to mention with Seraph. Seraph is CP starved. So all of her cards have a high average CP cost. She has no CP generation on her board. So you're going to expect to sell a lot of cards pretty often. I mean, look at this thing. This thing costs 4. It does a lot, but it costs 4 CP. Let's go over these. Smote, standard attack modifier. It's usually worth it, right? There's a bonus chance to land the Blinding Light, which is kind of cool. Angelic Combat, it's a flexible modifier. Most results are worth it. Sometimes it can be situational. To the Skies, usually you're going to sell this. You can generate flight pretty easily on your board, so sometimes you need the CP. So selling this is basically a net 2 CP because you're not spending 1 and you're gaining 1 from it. And then Divine Intervention, high risk, high reward, huge CP commitment. Great when it sticks, but brutal when it gets removed. So don't build your whole plan around getting this thing off, all right? Let's go over the upgrade cards really quickly. High priority, I would say, is going to be Triumphant. Triumphant is definitely an upgrade you're going to want because your small straight is going to be pretty commonly rolled. This turns your best damage per roll line into an actual win condition if you can find this. Angelic Mantle 2 or 3. The defense upgrade scales very well. Do more damage, prevent more damage, do more damage, prevent more damage, and have a reroll opportunity, which is really, really nice. It is expensive, but it does scale well. This is just disgusting value if you can get it. You can prevent 4, you can gain flight and potentially do some cool stuff there. So really, really cool stuff. And then the Glorious upgrade. Glorious is likely going to be one of your more commonly rolled abilities. So if you can get this early, it just creates a lot more consistency, which is really, really nice. Because again, Glorious is your most common, reliable bread and butter for damage and fuel and flight generation, etc. A couple of cards that are going to be situational. Purify is situational. What else we got? Highest power, situational. When the matchup makes the defense option a monster, you may need to go for this, but yeah, and then the Holy Blades, it's nice, but it's not necessary if your CP is going to be tight. So let's go ahead and grab these and move these down here really quickly so we can plug these into place of what we want. These are the ones that I would suggest the most. And let's kind of see what we want to do here. So let's talk game plan for Seraph. So again, you're not trying to win this game in 5 rounds. You're trying to make their best turns irrelevant with your status tokens, with what you can do with Blinding Light, with what you can do with Flight, and things like that. So your default plan is you're going to chip with safe attacks. Oftentimes it's going to be Glorious or Triumphant, while building your flights and your status leverage, right? Your Holy Presence, your flights. You want to build up the flights early, because that's going to give you the best opportunity to ignore damage or make your attacks undefendable. Spend flights to avoid the biggest damage, not for cute offensive value unless it is opportune. And then you can use Purify as the matchup-specific weapon when it removes high-value effects. It does become a heal plus damage plus huge mitigation depending on the status effects that are on them or on you. And then lastly, keep your CP flexible. Over-investing in the status effects and getting wiped by removal is how Seraph loses, right? She is hugely vulnerable to what status effects and get that out of the here's and things like that. So do not overcommit to these effects without actually attempting to do damage, etc. A few last tips. Flight usage. The rule of thumb is spend it to deny max damage, not to slightly improve your own attack. Your defensive flight is usually going to win you more games than it would on the offense. Glorious is secretly a damage per roll reducer. If you're dodging 1 out of 3 attacks over time with your flights, then that's a pretty massive swing even without huge numbers. Avoid smashing into punishing defenses. If their defense roll is brutal, pivot towards the undefendable line of Holy Smite or Purify instead of feeding them value if you don't need to. Let's see. Purify is going to be a long-term investment. It's best when it's removing things like targeted, bounty, damage over times, degeneration effects, things like that. So think of it as a tempo reset more than a healing opportunity. Or if you need access to undefendable, this is a good one. Your Sixit and dice tools are premium for you because you can convert flights into even bigger swings, right? So make sure, right, if a 6 was rolled, activate this token. If activated, etc., right? So make sure you're holding on to those because they're even more premium on Seraph. Your worst games happen when you fall behind early into a big health gap, or you dump a lot of CP into static engines and it just gets eaten up, or it's not well timed, or it gets removed. Okay? Matchups. She's going to be strong into opponents whose plans rely on removable status effects, right? So burn, targets, bounties, delayed poisons, powder kegs, things like that, time bombs. She's going to have a really decent matchup into those because you're going to be able to deny a lot of that while still doing things, which is nice. Imagine like you get hit with like a time bomb and you purify, and instead of losing 4, you heal 4 and don't lose 4. That's like an 8, potentially 8 delta, or not delta, whatever the word is, right? She's also going to be strong in matchups against opponents that depend on defensive rolls for damage. Flight lets you skip the defense tax, and Purify can break through that momentum, which is really nice. Who's she going to be weak into? Early game damage per roll bullies who front load damage before you stabilize. So Gambit, Pyromancer, Wolverine, those aggro heroes. Maybe even Alchemist, potentially. Probably not. And then late game control value heroes that build a stronger end state than you, especially if they don't need defensive roles to thrive. So like Shadow Thief, for example, right? She's also going to be weak into heavy CP disruption. So Cursed Pirate, right? That's going to hurt because she's already CP starved. If you can steal that, Shadow Thief, Cursed Pirate, stuff like that, or get rid of it. Knockdowns are going to be brutal for her. That's going to be tough. So, final take, Seraph wins by being inevitable. Don't race it down. Don't overinvest. Spend your flights on their biggest turns, and when the matchup gifts you value, Purify becomes a win condition. All right? So, I just did something with my ruler, but that is how you play. How do I get off this? Anyway, that's how you play Seraph. I now have a ruler, so that's fun. All right. Don't be afraid to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.